Hi, I'm Corbie Mitleid, and welcome to Cafe Corbie. Before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button so you never miss news from the nest. Today, I want to talk to you about spiritual time management. Spiritual time management is giving yourself enough time for your spirit, your soul, to grow, to shine your light in the world a little brighter and a little farther, without denying the fact that life also holds chopping wood and carrying water, and laundry and soccer practice, and all those countless small things that make up our lives in the 21st century. It's also about giving ourselves more time in a spiritual manner. And the 5 problem children around that are multitasking, doublethinking, Techno Toxicity, Last-ness and Exhaustion. Multitasking is when we're trying to talk on the phone and fold the laundry and keep an eye on the timer on the stove. Or at work, rushing to finish a report while participating in a conference call and trying to schedule our next 3 client appointments. Or, and yes, I've done this and so have you, attempting to keep 3 messenger conversations and a text dialogue all going at once. When we try to juggle so many unconnected things, we're not really there for any of it. We can't be as creative with it as we might. We can't savor what we're doing. There's no satisfaction at the end of the task because we didn't really feel the doing of it. And we've allowed our existence to slip away without really participating in any of it. So part of spiritual time management is being absolutely focused and there for what you're doing. When you are, when you're immersed in a task and letting it permeate your mind and heart, there's joy in it. There's learning. And joy and learning are a big part of spiritual growth, aren't they? Then there's double thinking. That's when you make a decision, but you worry about it, whether it was the right one or the wrong one. Or you try to do a mental flowchart of worst-case scenario, focusing on how to do damage control if a project doesn't please the boss. Or trying to figure out every single possibility for a given situation before the situation even happens. And it's all done under a sense of stress, panic, and fear. When I have a client who describes that kind of thing to me, I ask them immediately, "How old are you?" Surprised, they blurt it out. I'm 32. Why? I retort, "No, you're actually 64. You're trying to do 2 lives worth of thinking in one head, and that's why you're so exhausted." And they get it. So unravel the double thinking. Learn how to close the mental book on a situation rather than obsess. It's kind of like trying to get your mind to stop jabbering when you're trying to meditate. Pema Chodron, the wise Buddhist nun and best-selling author, says that when that happens during meditation, one should just note thinking and turn back to clearing your mind without focusing on what you did that you didn't want to do. When you're done with a subject and need to move on, mentally close the book. And when the thoughts bounce back and demand more time, but you're done, nod at them. Say, "No double thinking, thank you," and get back to what you really want to concentrate on at the moment. The next problem child is Techno Toxicity. Wanda's an entrepreneur. If you look around at her office, you'd see 2 phones, personal and business, a large computer, and various pieces of technology that she needs to run her business: printer, video camera, green screen, teleprompter, iPad. In her bedroom, she has an e-reader, a weather radio to warn her in case of bad weather, and the alarm that wakes her up with a myriad number of ringtones. In her living room, there's a flat-screen TV, her cable box, and a Blu-ray player. Wanda works 10 to 12 hours a day at her business. These days, virtually all of it is conducted online with clients around the country. What contact she has with humanity is via texting, online conferencing apps, or phone. And when she needs a break from work, she goes to one of the other pieces of tech in the house and plugs in there. Even when she goes to bed at night, rather than read a book, she plays video games for an hour or so until she's numb enough to turn out the light. Now, Wanda is an extreme, I grant you, but we are, all of us, incredibly plugged into technology, and we avail ourselves of it constantly. And not only does it fragment our attention spans, but it keeps us from being aware of time. Technotoxicity is like walking into a casino. The lights and noise are mesmerizing because the casino is designed for you to forget where the doors are and always spend far more time there than you expect, unless you're constantly watching the clock and staying mindful. One of the fastest ways to regain your time is to avoid the tempting plug-in. We talk about limiting our kids' television or computer time. We need to limit our own techno time. Try, just for a week, to keep track of how much time you spend on a piece of technology rather than communicating with people. Really look at where tech has replaced non-electronic joys. E-readers are fine, but when was the last time you really savored a book in your hands, getting lost in the words, the smell of the paper, the feel of the binding? In fact, when was the last time you spent an hour or so daydreaming and resting your mind, rather than filling it with someone else's fantasy world, or even worse, the news screed of the day? It's time to take back your mind and your life from the pixels and the pings. Last-ness and Exhaustion. Somewhere along the road, while I was researching for this video, spiritual time management started to look a lot like putting everyone else first, being compassionate and generous and always thinking of them because being selfish is not a spiritual use of your time. Oh, my dears, I beg to differ. Women, especially, are brought up to put themselves last. Do your chores. Help your parents. Do for your family. Be the good worker. Always say no thank you so that someone else can have more. Always say it's no problem when someone asks you to do something. Be cheerful. Be helpful. Be kind. Be giving. And while we've come a long way, it's still part of the societal norm for women to literally not know how to say me first. Yes, it's wonderful to be and do all those things, but you can't give if your basket is empty. You can't feed someone if your cupboard is bare. And if you act like you're not hungry and you don't need anything, people will take you at your word and move on to someone who does say what they need. When we're constantly exhausted by doing and giving to an extreme, we feel like we have no time at all. We don't have enough energy to take care of ourselves in even the most basic ways. And the more we fill what time we have with things we think we should be doing for others, the less we actually feel like doing them. Giving and doing become expected chores, like going to the dry cleaners or cleaning up after the dog when we walk him. A required part of life, but nothing to delight over. And that's such a double loss. When you take time for yourself, when you put yourself at the top of your priority list, you load that basket, you fill that pantry. You discover big and little ways of loving yourself that are so delicious you may want to pass some of them on to others. You give yourself enough energy and refreshment that doing what is required on a daily basis and doing for others feels far less daunting and feeds you at the same time it feeds them. You live, really live, in the delight of what you're doing so that you're experiencing life rather than slogging through it. If you can deal with these 5 time and energy stealers in more creative ways, boom, all of a sudden you'll have more time than you thought you did. You'll feel less exhausted, so you can use every moment of time more productively. You can acknowledge and honor everything you do, and you will feel infinitely more in control of your life, your time, and your mental and emotional state, which gives you the time to experience and expand your spirituality a lot more than 10 minutes every Tuesday if you have time. That's it for today at Cafe Corbie. Special thanks to our Patreon patrons whose support enables us to bring you all these videos. Amy Bush, Shannon Hayes, Robin McAleer, Frankie Wood, and Bernie Zhang. Be sure to visit us on Facebook at Fire Through Spirit, or join us on Patreon for exclusive content and to be part of the flock. We'll see you again soon.